As you know, the other day, when was it? Tuesday? Biden named the governors of two states, Florida and Texas, as being part of the problem with the pandemic, not part of the solution. There's that old saying, I don't know where it's from, either lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way, which certainly is appropriate with what we're dealing with the Delta variant of COVID-19. But after saying that, DeSantis, this thuggish-looking idiot who is the governor of Florida, responded to Biden's attitude about him, about DeSantis, and how DeSantis is just allowing the COVID-19 variant to run wild in Florida, making people sick, killing people. Florida leads the nation in new COVID-19 cases. And that situation has been exacerbated by recent moves by this moron and the Florida legislature, never a collection of intelligent people to begin with. But the actions of both the governor and the legislature make it harder to mitigate the spread of this virus in Florida. So what happened was he was speaking, Biden was, about DeSantis's orders that bar local governments and school districts from passing masking mandates. This dumb son of a bitch will have none of it, DeSantis. So Biden asked Florida leadership, stand aside, let the federal government work to contain the pandemic. Biden said, quote, if you're not going to help, at least get out of the way of people trying to do the right thing, end quote. Now, that's more like a plea than an insult, isn't it? If you're not going to help, please stand aside. Please get out of the way. Well, DeSantis responded at a news conference yesterday in a manner that you will be very familiar with if you've ever had to deal with a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old refusing to stop sucking his thumb, no matter what you try to get the kid to do as a diversion. As soon as the diversion of the word thud, back into the mouth goes the thumb. DeSantis is nothing if he's not a thumb sucker. So this is what DeSantis said yesterday. Quote, now listen to this closely. This is just obscene and insane, but it's typical Trumpian Christian fascist bullshit. Here's DeSantis, quote, if you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. I'm not going to let you get away with it. If you're trying to deny kids a proper in-person education, I'm going to stand in your way. End quote. Just non sequitur after non sequitur. Biden said nothing even remotely resembling what this stupid Christian fascist asshole DeSantis had to say. Coming after the rights of parents? That's not what Biden is talking. He's talking about public health. Denying kids a proper in-person education? Biden is trying to make sure that kids get an in-person education without risking their lives. But this is what Christian fascists do. They lie. They dissemble. They talk shit. They're crazy. And DeSantis is a perfect example of the perfect Christian fascist. Oh, by the way, yeah, he wants to run for president. Now, the majority of Florida's voters support public school districts enforcing masking rules to keep children safe. But under this gangster-looking DeSantis, school districts can be defunded for imposing mandates designed to keep kids safe. The state of Florida has become the center of the Delta variant surge, this fourth wave that is making people sick all over the country, causing people to be hospitalized, causing people to die. Tuesday, day before yesterday, Florida broke its own record for hospitalizations for the third day in a row. 11,500 people with COVID-19 showed up at hospitals on Tuesday. And despite the Christian fascist irresponsible attempts to make it appear that the risk from this Delta variant is minimal at best, nearly 140 children were hospitalized with the disease on Tuesday. 140, that's the highest total of any state in the country. And health experts warn that young adults between the ages of 20 and 40 have the highest rates of infection in this filthy, stinking state run by this filthy, stinking gangster. But, as Jennifer Rubin mentions in the column in the Washington Post, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I always do, but DeSantis doesn't give a shit about his constituents. He doesn't care about children. He's a Christian fascist. He doesn't care. What he cares about is pleasing the MAGA crowd, not the survival of Floridians. Oh, no. He just wants to make sure that these knuckle-dragging, gun-toting Christian fascist bastards, whom he thinks will put back in power as governor in 2022, that's all he cares about. He's banned companies from instituting vaccine mandates. He's preempted local governments and schools from requiring masks. And in doing this gangster-looking idiot is showing an incredible disregard for human life. But that is typical. That is typical of Christian fascists. They care about zygotes. They care about clusters of cells that are lodged inside a woman's privacy. And that's it. And the only reason they care about that is because they pretend to care about it as a means of reestablishing absolute control over women. The Handmaid's Tale. Disregard for human life. What a thug. Now, as Jennifer points out, the state of Florida already knows the consequences of this kind of irresponsible leadership. Florida's public radio station, WJCT, reports this, quote, one study from the CDC says the effectiveness of mask wearing for students in its analysis of Florida's K-12 school districts when they reopened for in-person learning last year, with varying degrees of protection measures in place, show higher rates among students in districts without mandatory mask use policy, and those with a higher proportion of students attending in-person learning. These findings provide further evidence for the effectiveness of universal masking, especially when physical distancing cannot be achieved. And WJCT added this, quote, among the chorus of public health professionals calling for universal mask use in schools is the Florida chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. End quote. I mean, the science is there. The reality is there. The results are there. The evidence is there. Sick children are there. Dying children are there. Healthy children are there. And yet this son of a bitch, Ron DeSantis, in order to satisfy these Christian Nazis who follow Donald Trump, orders school districts, don't you dare issue a mask mandate. None of these statistics or facts or realities or science matters to this crazy son of a bitch, not a bit of it. In fact, DeSantis has doubled down on his opposition to measures designed to protect the health of Floridians. And he announced that he would not shut down businesses or approve mandates or order schools, mask, nothing. No. So how many children will this virus have to infect? How many kids are going to have to die before these Christian fascists become just a little bit squeamish about DeSantis's indifference to the constituents that the Florida elected representatives to the Florida legislature or to Washington? How much sickness and death before they've had enough of DeSantis? Look what happened to Cuomo, and deservedly. I'm not going to get into the Cuomo thing, but look at the screaming and crying and clawing and clutching and demanding that the son of a bitch resign from the governorship in Florida. And then look at this bastard down the governorship in New York. And then look at this bastard down in Florida who is putting the lives of innocent children at risk in order to satisfy his Christian insane base. Which governor deserves to be removed from office to a greater degree than the other? Seriously. I'm not defending Cuomo. Fuck him. I mean, if he wanders around grabbing women and making women feel intimidated and threatening them, then get rid of the son of a bitch. But I'm sorry, I don't see how that is in any way equivalent to what DeSantis is doing. And yet nobody's screaming for DeSantis to be impeached and removed from office. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.